And here we are. This is Here and Now with Darrell. Darrell.
Hi, everybody.
Uh,
I sorry, I have a French word there. Télé-réalité. It's
anyway, yeah,
reality TV. That's what's going on. That's
yeah,
why everybody's all excited. It's another episode of Big Brother. You
yes,
know, that's
yeah.
it. That's what's coming.
That's another aspect that I'd like to bring to the attention of the
Yeah,
general viewership here.
yeah.
We're in a country that's, well, here, we're bicultural. On
Mhm.
parle ici en français aussi bien
Absolument,
qu'on parle en anglais là.
absolument,
Okay,
absolument.
so we're sort of bicultural, but this is a different mentality in the United States of America, where, people speak, the only people, who speak both Spanish and English are the Spanish.
Absolutely,
The English don't
absolutely.
bother, like,
But it's like you were saying just 2 seconds ago. Here we have the franglais. You know what I mean? We have the English that will mix in the French, and it's not an issue. It's just something that is.
yeah, that's
It,
like
it
in
is what it
Lebanon,
is.
where they speak in Arabic and French and English at the same
There you
time.
go.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
yeah. So what are we up to here? Like last time I spoke with Steve Struggle,
Mhm.
it occurred to me, that if the United States is allowing its pseudo-military, its quasi-military, ICE agents, to claim that they are police without training, you know what? They have 47 days of training because the Trump is the 47th president of the United
Mhm.
States,
Mhm. Mhm.
47 days of training,
Yeah.
probably not in law,
I
just
bet you he's the one who came up
for sure,
with it.
yeah.
It's something that's proven to
These
be.
these guys that have no, legal training,
Yeah,
and they're going out there, claiming that they have, like martial law powers, and that's why they killed Ms. Good there because she wouldn't
absolutely.
stop her car in
Well,
order
her
to do
and many
so.
others as well.
So now, the idea occurred to me, that if the United States, Trump in particular, can offer his support to the people of Iran who have been shot down in the street to some extent, or they're uh, engaged in shooting down cops there as well. A couple of hundred cops, have been taken down as well by either, like CIA agents or, local resistance, fighters. Who knows?
Mhm.
Anyway, the idea occurred to me, like if the United States is allowing Americans to be shot down in the street, then perhaps, we Canadians, there are a lot of Canadian veterans, who are already trained, all we have to do is just cross over the border. We don't even need a visa. We can just go down there in our Seville and get in, join a demonstration and protect the demonstrators. If they get shot on, then we know where to get the arms there in the United States. Then we can
Absolutely.
just
Go to
take care of,
Walmart. Just go to Walmart.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then, if Henry Mill, any sort of, Proud Boy, former Proud Boy, fascist,
Mhm.
guy, like hyped up on his $50,000, recruitment bonus, thinks he
47,000. 47.
47,000?
Because
Not so
47.
much,
Yeah.
okay.
It's 47.
Everything's 47. And like things he can get away with murder, then we can teach him otherwise. That sort of thing, could happen, could be happening, who knows, how many Canadian veterans, are interested,
Oh,
in protecting the Americans,
yeah.
and sure, yeah, so, yeah, okay, so Trump, Trump, yeah,
32 SEALs commander has been replaced. But that is putting absolutely. You have to move just a start a
Yeah, I
network.
have
That's
to
it.
know what's going to be
Like, he's putting people where he wants on his chessboard.
Hmm.
And all the Americans are suffering for this. He'll put a tariff on Canada, but it's, let's say, the American farmers that are paying the price. Why aren't there any farmers all over Washington? Like we had when we had our truckers in front of the parliament.
I think
Why
that
aren't there people freaking out more?
I, I think that's one of the reasons for this Federal Reserve, uh, confrontation, because the effect of the tariffs that Trump has imposed on all the other countries, meaning that the prices in the United States are going to go higher because all of the importations, are going to be
Mhm.
paying, like more, and they're passing that cost on to the consumer because they're in control.
Absolutely,
They're
absolutely.
private, sector of the economy.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want, prices, So they're going to pass it on to the consumer to the extent that they can. So in order to relieve this inflationary dynamic that he has set up himself,
Mhm.
he wants to decrease the rate of interest on the loan of US dollars
Mhm.
so that this will stimulate the economy in the short term
Absolutely. Oh, okay.
until the
So that's
election.
why he's putting his puppet
Yeah,
in wanting to put his
because
puppet
he wants a
so
stimulus to
he'll
the
get his
economy because he
prices and
knows
his.
that otherwise he's going to be
Okay.
shafted.
Okay. So that's another way to also strangle the poor person to give back to the rich person and basically do it in his global view of how the Americans should be
Yeah,
running.
and it also helps the rich person who can borrow money, from the bank. The banks are not going to lend money to a poor person, so it works in that way as well, so he gets more support, more donations, more Republican Party support. That's
Yep.
the problem. The Republican Party, it still has a grip
Mhm.
on the two houses of the legislature there in the United States of America. I don't think they're going to go for impeachment, even though
I
it's
don't either.
warranted.
The way you were talking about it previously, I don't either. But what's sad to say is though, what I'm trying to say basically is how do I say this? To not be labeled as a very sadistic person, but it's like watching a bunch of mice in a laboratory.
Hmm.
And I'd like to see how far they will go into their discipline. How uncomfortable do you have to be
Hmm.
before you say it's enough?
How
That's basically my question.
self-destructive they can be.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, because now you replaced your security,
Hmm.
you're replacing your army. And that's why what makes me laugh, I want to come back to this also, and I get it, I'm an ex-soldier. I talk about it a lot, but it's another reason why I tell people to not be afraid of the American army. They're so confused now.
Hmm.
They're so their heads are spinning on themselves
Hmm.
right now. The army doesn't know who to listen to.
Hmm.
They don't know where their boots start and where their jackets end.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
was going to ask you, like, how can a president, just an elected politician, like who knows nothing about military, appoint, like the military, unless, the military is doing something illegal, like how can they control the military apparatus when the
There's
military is,
bad apples in every organization, and he's probably, what saddens me the most is I think that Trump really literally goes on a list and sees the people who's voted for him
yeah.
and their jobs and ranks and whatever the hell he wants.
Hmm.
And whoever is like moindrement, in his mindset and close to the rank that he wants, he will probably,
Yeah.
invite over for supper, have a couple of meals, talk about their ideas, and then say, well, listen,
But, like if the presidency has control over the military,
mhm.
the presidency has control over the economy, presidency has control over whether or not they respect the Constitution, then,
Mhm.
who's going to stop them?
That's something amazing too. Like that's the first thing I said when this all started. I said, why do they keep making movies with this piece of paper, this American Constitution that protects all the Americans from any eventuality
Hmm.
except the fact
Themselves.
of having a king
Yeah.
installed instead of,
Yeah. Because they
their
pretended that it wasn't like, the presidency wasn't like a king. Okay, but then
yeah,
all of a sudden Trump, digs up all these old laws, which gives him the power of a king,
absolutely, absolutely.
because
Listen,
they didn't really have,
when you
like
have someone
an
who
anti-monarchist, constitution there.
just put it this way, okay? I'm gonna go about this the most, how can I say this? The most brutal way. When you have someone who's done something, let's say I'm a criminal, okay? I am a criminal, and I tell you, if you commit a crime, you will be punished. right there, there's a problem.
Hmm.
Right there, right off the bat, there is a problem.
Hmm.
You don't have to go further than that. There is no more further than that.
Hmm.
You have someone who's pointing the finger at someone who's already been in that particular situation. On appelle ça de l'hypocrisie. It's being hypocritical. Now, do you want to swear that in? You want to put your hand on a Bible and say, I solemnly swear I will. Come on, man. And now we're starting with the Epsteins, with the taxes, with the you had signs, people. But now when you start replacing positions like the Army, Federal Reserve, and listen, there's people that are gonna literally, if you think that he's attacking his people with ice, this is nothing. Wait till his policy kicks in, and there's no more what do you call that? Healthcare. There will be more deaths. Now, what I think right now is not only that you think that Canadian forces go in and civilians, I think this guy should be charged with second-degree manslaughter. I think he is responsible for every.
Yeah, it's called criminal negligence.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for. He's a criminal. He's a criminal himself. He's pretty much bringing everybody behind him towards cell doors. All the people that accept his way of thinking should all be arrested after this whole situation is done with. The question is, though, like we were talking about 5 minutes ago, is how long are they going to take it? And like you said, they might not be impeaching him, but is there anything else that can be done? And I'm not talking about getting him assassinated here. I won't go that far.
There is a contradiction in the American Constitution, which is called state rights, which was
I don't think
initially
anybody's talking
built
about
in
this
there to protect the slavery states. But states do have this power in which they can overrule the presidency even,
Well, why
that's how
is it
they,
the only it's only the governor of California that's trying to do it then.
yeah.
He's the only one I hear about it. That's why I'm saying.
And then some
no
mayors,
one's
the
talking about it.
sanctuary cities, like Chicago, got rid of ICE. They kicked out ICE.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, now you have Minneapolis who's suffering, who's struggling with it. I get the state of New York. ICE is terrified of New York. You know what I mean? But it's the fact that, you know why I think people are terrified of New York? It's because they know Quebec is right behind them. You know what I mean? And I think Quebec would say, okay, de la merde, fuck it, we're coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
There's
Like
already
we go shop there. Don't
8
mess with
million.
our- Exactly. Imagine you start touching our stores up in, Plattsburgh. Don't touch our Plattsburgh.
Yeah, and if
But-
he wants to take on Canada and Quebec,
I just
then-
find it sad for the American Monsieur, Madame, tout le monde, Mr. and Mrs. Everybody, Mrs. Good, or Miss Good. I'm sorry, but the point is, these people, how much can they take? How much can they take? And I'm scared for the Army. I'm scared for I'm basically scared for how long they're going to let this go, because if he gets his hand on the Federal Reserve, there's no more goddamn limits. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Army was already an untouchable.
Yeah. Well, also the military has gotten, $1 trillion budget, so I think what they're sort of, looking forward to is, like when the American economy, tanks, I think they can figure that out, that it's going to do that, but that doesn't concern them so much, because the transnational American corporations don't make their money in the United States of America anymore. Like they're international, they exist above the state. Okay, so all these Americans are going to be unemployed, so what are they going to do with them? If they leave them unemployed, they're going to be, a revolutionary force. They're going to get rid of the idiots in power. So what they're going to do, they offer them, a recruiting bonus into the military. They're going to recruit them all into the military. They use them as cannon fodder, for for international exploits, in Venezuela, whatever.
And it's funny you hit a point, Doc, when you said, they're getting rid of all these, sorry for the term, but the people that are not thinking their way. There's another gentleman who I don't know if you guys know about this young lad who likes to take on people who are pro-Trump, and he likes to make them think about what they're choosing and why they chose for it. And he met this other individual who's another known I think mediator or whatever you want to call him, and he went out and said publicly to I think Harvard University that he thinks that all retards should be shot and thrown off a cliff in the States now. So now you have
including him or not?
No, not including him. I guess he's smart enough to open his computer and to record this. But the people at Harvard, mouths open, by the way,
Mm.
and just to think in 2026, because we're now a couple of days past January 1st here, and he said this like 3 days ago. So now in 2026, you have some smart men coming out of the closet, showing their real thoughts, their real,
Yeah.
façon de voir et de penser, and the money they have. And not just this, I know that I'm throwing all kinds of stuff out, but I just want people to understand the retardedness of not the people, of the actual thinking of these retard killers, supposedly. Um, there's a billionaire who went and sent $20,000 to the ICE cop who shot good
Oh, yeah.
because, he figured maybe he would need money in case he gets arrested or something like
Yeah.
that. He's the one who needs the money.
He has not been charged even yet.
Not even. No, no, no. And actually, he's the one who came out. I heard this recently. I read this recently. He came out himself saying that he thought that she was going for the glove box when he shot. And when he found out there were no weapons, he didn't have the actual, tone of Trump and his partners had. He went to well, I made an honest cop mistake.
Oh, he said
That
that?
was that's his going now. So he's covering his ass on every account. He's got Trump being a freak on himself by his own.
It's such a lie because he wasn't
Exactly.
close enough to be seeing into the window.
We all see the
Yeah.
clock. We don't have to come back on it.
Yeah.
But it's just to see that this guy can't even, did they talk about the fact that he said no to that $20,000 from that rich guy?
Yeah.
Did he say, we're not talking about none of that. We're just talking about, how he's covering his ass, and it's never been about her.
Yeah.
It's never been about how she was terrified
Yeah.
and how all this was out of control.
In any case, he's been identified, and his name is Ross, and he will be charged one day. If not
But
now,
isn't this proof of what we were just saying? When you
Yeah.
put people like Patel
Yeah.
in charge of something that is something bigger
Yeah.
than this man can handle. This is something bigger than these Proud Boys can handle.
Yeah.
This is, and the Federal Reserve and the Army is something bigger
And
than
Americans,
Trump can handle.
Americans, rebels, no matter what they thought before, no matter who they voted for,
Yeah.
they're not going to accept, like some macho freak who thinks, he can order everybody else around.
Yeah,
So,
no,
they won't accept that. Yeah, it's right in here.
Yeah.
Here's the microphone.
I mean, watching this amazing story play out of this confrontation between the Department of Justice and the Federal Reserve over the past couple of days. This is a question about the future of the American economy. This is a question about the future of American government. How many independent institutions are going to be allowed to exist in Washington in Trump's America?
Okay. But there was another one that you showed me before that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't find that one. I'm not technically up to speed with my phone here. It's a phone that was given to me not too long ago. If you want to pause it, or worst comes to worst, I can try and find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Is it this one here? Watch Trump call out jerk Fed chair. Oh no. Yeah, there was this one here too also. I don't know if I showed you this one. I want you to check it before.
So this is my personal scripting routine as a medical assistant. Step one.
Began and where it all began, and frankly, a country that we love. The United States is winning again. It's rapidly making it, but
I can't remember where it is.
Okay, forget about it.
Yeah.
We don't need
Well,
we don't
anyways,
need his voice there.
yeah, I can't stand his voice actually. Like I don't know if I was on camera, but I can't stand his voice.
His voice is like this. There's a certain stereotypical voice, that
Yeah.
he represents. That's not,
Sounds like a pedophile, Doc.
he sounds, like this voice, is sort of a sound, that has existed before him. It's not
Yeah.
original to him. He's copying, sort of a
Yeah.
stereotype, with this voice.
He's got that creepy sound. Yeah.
Yeah. But on top of that,
Yeah.
he doesn't speak in sentences. He has no, logical, grammatical structure to sentences. He doesn't speak in a deductive manner, in which a sentence, has a thought, and then it goes to another thought, and then it goes to a conclusion. He has none of that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have, the first sentence as a thought in and of itself. He just has these impressions, that he's throwing out because he wants to create an image
Mhm.
of himself or a story that he wants, to repeat, that he wants others to repeat, that it's not necessarily, anything that he believes himself.
Well, it was like all his TV shows. You know what I mean? He hides behind whatever somebody else built for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His legacy was built by his parents. His
Yeah.
legacy is built by his reputation of being an asshole. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's nothing that belongs to him, even being an asshole.
Yeah,
Even
that's
being an
okay. That's okay for him. He even said that he could shoot somebody down in the street.
Oh,
And
yeah,
get away with it,
that's fine. That's the role he portrays. That's fine. But when the man is naked, when I mean naked is,
Well, there was a
Judgment
photo
Day.
of him nearly naked with a young girl.
Oh, listen,
Yeah.
listen, he's got his own place with South Park now where he's just a penis. You know what I mean? He's literally a penis.
Walking penis.
That's it. And the most ugliest of all. But anyways, the point is,
Mm.
what we were talking about before, here in Canada, yes, we have a prime minister who is close ties with the generals and army decisions, but our army is independent, where the army generals can make final decisions, even though the president, or sorry, the prime minister is not completely
Yes, that's the way it
Anatol.
should be. The general should be able to say, that's an illegal order. We refuse to
Exactly.
invade Greenland,
But
or
I'll give you an example for the people that are watching. Let's say you become the president of a company. It's not because you're the president of that company that you can run the machinery of it either, because you don't have that connaissance. You are in charge of the company
Mhm.
as a CEO. You have those financial abilities, whatever the company is looking for. But when you come in with the title commander in chief, and you've never commanded nothing.
Yeah.
When I mean nothing, not even a production team.
Mm.
This is a man who's bullied people all his life.
Skipped out on military service.
Exactly. And who has his money, family, and power speak for him.
Yeah.
When I talk about commanding, I'm talking about people who've taken courses, people who've had training. Before you command, you must have been commanded.
Mm.
This is a man who's never taken no for an answer,
Mm.
not even from a child.
Mm.
So imagine him being commander in chief.
Mm.
You don't have to imagine it, we're living it.
Yeah, oh, wow.
So that's exactly what I don't understand with my impulsive attitude of an ex-soldier. We should be stomping the shit out of this man already. He should be already arrested,
Yeah, the
he should have
Americans
been charged.
should be ashamed.
put away. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel for the actual good American person. You know, that American person that's got that, what do you say, that glow with them, the American that wants to go get all the opportunities they can. They laugh at themselves, they can laugh at the world. They're just good American people. Unfortunately, we don't know those people anymore. Those Roseannes, the
Oh, yeah,
times in the
yeah.
90s with our sitcoms,
Yeah.
all this is gone. Now
Yeah.
we are in a tele-reality era.
Yeah.
We're in a reality TV.
Remember when there was this
You're
program
fired,
called
you know what I mean?
I Love Lucy?
Yeah.
And she was this, Anglo-American,
With the Cuban
tall
husband, yeah.
blonde, like
Yeah.
an epitome of an American woman should look like, and she's married with, a Mexican guy,
Cuban
Cuban guy, yeah.
yeah.
And that was okay, and
Yeah,
everybody loved
and
them
she
both,
wanted to be on
like,
the workforce, and he wanted to be, and it was a dream. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it was
It was a-
okay,
yeah.
like it was okay then, like, and he's trying to reverse all of that, but that's still there in the American political culture.
I think that's what scares me. I think you know what I'm scared most of losing, Doc? I think I'm more scared of losing all of our history, all the history from the United States, all the, how could I say that? The fun stuff, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, you know what I mean? Like the good old American, like the Fords, the Detroits, the cars, the muscle car, you know what I mean? Like everything that everybody knows America for is gone. Now we know America as the new Germany, they're Hitler's, the ISIS. Guess that I've never seen.
Ice gets up. Oh yeah.
I've never seen this in my life.
Model that's
Like
that's the
every year
paradigm,
we're
yeah.
talking about, maybe it was. I don't know. But it wasn't that. And if it was, what channel are you supposed to look at it? Nobody knows because we're all on this. It's all focused on what he's done, what he's saying, what he's gonna do.
We were talking about
You
this
know.
before, like I was thinking historically, as in sort of a comparative analysis with, Nazi Germany. Okay. So Trump presently has about 40% support. Okay. Now, Hitler started off with only 38% support as well. He was appointed to be chancellor. He was not elected. He was appointed to be chancellor by Hindenburg, the president, the Prussian president of Germany at the time, and their mini empire that they called Germany. But it was actually the Prussian Empire originally.
The Prussian Empire?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's originally, the model of Germany as a nation state was made by Hegel. And Hegel was promoting Prussian nationalism.
I like that
And
word.
Prussia, was the province, that where the aristocrats came from, and they had controlled all the other provinces of Germany. It was their mini empire in the feudal system. And they turned it into a modern nation state, according to Hegel. Okay. So, this Prussian, president, Hindenburg, he appointed Hitler to be chancellor, prime minister, without an election. Okay. So everybody, talks about, how Hitler got elected. He didn't get elected. That's the first thing I want to correct. So he had 38% only support at the time. It's the largest political party at the time. Okay.
Kind of
Why?
like Trump. He wasn't elected. He
That's-
stole it. Okay.
Okay. But, worse than that, because, and when the election did take place, that was, manipulated to a great extent. Nonetheless, it took place, and he only got 38% of the vote. But they still formed the government because they were the largest political party available. Why? Because the Communist Party and the Socialist Party were split, and they were trying to kill each other. And they wouldn't form a united front, to form a government of coalition, in which they could have done, because they had more support, combined than the Nazi Party did, but they missed it. However, in the United States, that's not the case. The opposition to Trump is the United Front. Mainly led, like inspired by Bernie Sanders and Democratic Socialists of America.
Can I ask you something though, Doug? What is Trump's party scared of? Let's say I'm a member of his party, okay? And I decide that he's wacko. Enough. I want to go to the other side. What are they scared of? Like, are they scared of getting like physically harmed? Is he like at the point where if you don't do what I say, I'll have you
They're
killed?
scared of what they call replacement.
Yeah, but if you go to the other side and the other side wins, how could you be replaced?
By the immigration.
No,
That's
but
why
let's
they
say-
were stomping down on there's
No, but I'm talking about the
38
party.
million Mexicans living in the United States.
No,
of
no, I'm
America.
not talking about
Okay,
this
okay,
thing.
I'll give you the
Okay.
breakdown.
38
38 million Mexicans living in the United States.
Mhm.
Only 11 million of them are not fully documented because the immigration process has been stalling them.
Mhm.
Even though they've been living in the United States for a long time, even though they are working, paying taxes, and all this, and have their children in schools, their immigration status is, in abeyance, because of the United States. The United States immigration is at fault here, because they should have been already accepted as citizens.
Okay.
Okay, like it would be the case here in Canada.
Yeah.
Which is the maximum, it's 5 years you have to wait, like.
Okay.
So
So
that-
basically the wait period.
Okay,
is-
but nonetheless, like 38 million, Mexicans in the United States of America, plus 11 million Black nation African Americans.
Okay.
Then you have the major blocks in the American, demographic scene is the Anglo-Saxons and the Germans.
Mhm.
Okay. Now everybody knows, that the Anglo-Saxons, like Kennedy, etc., were, are dominant, in the New England states.
Mhm.
Okay, that's Anglo territory. With all the immigrants that came in afterwards,
Yeah.
Jewish, Italian, etc.
Mhm.
But it's the Anglo power base there. The Germans, who form only 1% less than the Anglo-Americans, who are 26% of the population, and the Anglo-Americans are only 27% of the population. The two of them are forming what's called white America.
Mm.
with the German Americans, allied with the White South, because they are the land grabbers, they're the ones who came in,
So now they become
unemployed,
53%.
unemployed from Germany came into the United States because they offered free land. Why is it free? Because it was stolen from the indigenous nations. They're just told, go and stake it,
Yeah, that's it.
put your
That's
flag
it.
into it, like
Yeah.
100 acres there, and
Yeah.
it's yours,
Yeah. They actually make competitions with that thing.
Yeah.
Whoever got there
But,
first.
but no indigenous people were allowed to participate in that. Like it was over,
not.
like so, so now the up to now, it's the Anglo-Americans have had, like the dominance in the United States of America, like even if they were, and they were the more liberal, like wing as well, because they were in, England had stopped slavery, at some point, but the South didn't want to stop slavery, and they were still supported by England, but they had split from England at that point. Okay, so now the German Americans, they want to have a say because they want to take the power, in the name of, like white nationalism, white Christianity, like Americanism, as they call it themselves. They want to take it away from the Anglos because, the Anglos have been monopolizing it, because they have control over banks, war industries, the big stuff, and the German Americans, they've only had, land.
Mhm.
But then they started
They've
making
only
money.
had land. That's it.
Like, the Midwest is, majority German.
Yeah.
That's why they voted, for the Trumpf there. Okay, so,
Even with Germany screaming nine,
okay,
nine.
but, 26 and 27% together, it's just barely a majority. And if there's more American than Mexicans are coming in, continually,
Yeah. So
because
let's
of the
stop them.
wars and crises that they've provoked in Latin America, and making people, like having to leave their countries and come to the United States,
Mm.
okay, to work, for less than minimum wage, to collect the crops, from the American farmers. Well, they're going to become the majority soon,
Yep, no, I get it.
with the Mexicans and the Black Americans, and the Italians, in New York.
That's why they're stopping them. That's why they're deporting them.
That's why they are, into stopping this migration, because they're afraid of losing the majority. And if they
Absolutely.
lose the majority, if the America stays a democracy, then they lose the power. Both of them, both the Anglo and the German, white Americans. So that's why, they're into this big push right now because they're on the edge of losing the power. That's my
That's
analysis
well,
of the situation.
that's well explained. Now I get it.
Yeah,
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. And
One
that's a-
party's pushing out the other.
Yeah, you have to get
There you
into
go.
demographic analysis, you have to get into political economy, all of those things you have to analyze, into their roots, to know what's coming on and what's going to be happening.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Okay, that's good for now.
Bye, y'all.